All right.
Just tell me to move over.
I'd like to call to order the March 22nd Concord-Carlisle Regional School Committee meeting. Cynthia?
And call the Concord School Committee meeting to order.
And with,
No,
no, we don't need a roll call
no.
because we're just waiting for, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so we are all here. We are called to order and I will entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session.
So moved
Shall I read it?
for
or-
both.
Yeah.
Oh, forgive me. Yeah, I can read it. I'm sorry. The Concord School Committee and the Concord-Carlisle School Committee will enter into executive session under purpose 3 of the open meeting law to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the CCHS tutors and CPS CCHS bus drivers unions and return to open session at 6:30 PM. I so move.
Is there a second? A second. Okay, all in favor?
I think we do roll calls to go in exec.
We do roll calls to go in exec. I never know. when
I
that-
know.
Okay, roll call.
Booth, aye.
Morano, aye.
Mustafi, aye.
Rainy eye?
Wilson-
both.
And Wilson, aye for region.
Oh, gosh. Okay,
Okay,
yeah,
all right, we
We're
will
muted?
return at 6:30.
yes.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome everybody back to the March 22nd joint Concord-Carlisle School Committee meeting. Thank you for staying with us through the executive session. And I'm just going to note that this meeting is being recorded. And we will start by welcoming our CCHS students for the student update. Welcome, Darcy.
Hi, it's good to see you. I'm just going to share my screen to show the student report. Okay. Sorry, I'm having trouble sharing.
Do we need to give her access?
She should be all set.
Okay. Sorry about that. I'm having trouble sharing, so I'll just give the student update without the presentation. So the first update was on Monday. It was our first day of sports at CCHS. So a lot of students had tryouts. A lot of students who were participating in sports had their first day of the season, and it was very exciting because a lot of students at the school are involved with sports. So that was great, especially since now we don't have any COVID protocols because most sports are outdoors. So that also makes it especially nice because I think that's like the first time for a few years now. So that's great, or 2 years roughly. And then today was also the first day of MCAS for 10th graders. And it seemed to go pretty smoothly from everyone I talked to. And that our second day will be tomorrow. And then we also have math and science later in the year, but English was today, and that seemed to go pretty well for many students. And then also recently, due to the rise in cases and a lot of students getting colds, which is probably to be expected with the mask coming off, there are some more students wearing masks and being more aware of the health situation at CCHS, especially due to the rise in cases at CMS and in particular Peabody. But overall, it seems to be going still pretty well with the mask optional policy. And then additionally, the quarter is coming to a close soon, our quarter 3, and many students are beginning to wrap up and start to look towards quarter 4. And then sort of more recent activities at the school, class government ran a successful St. Patrick's Day luncheon and dodgeball tournament, which were both widely attended. I think the dodgeball tournament had over 250 students, which is great. And then the St. Patrick's Day luncheon also had a lot of participation. And then Student Senate recently hosted the semi-annual blood drive through Boston Children's Hospital. And that was also really successful. We were able to fill all the spots, which is especially great because of the current blood shortage. And many students were involved in that. And then Student Senate also met with Mr. Mastrullo to discuss attendance policy changes, which will be put in place, especially following a lot of the COVID protocols previously in place coming no longer being necessary. And then finally, many students have been very aware and saddened by the missing CCHS student. And I know a lot of people are thinking about that and just really, really hoping for the best and wishing our family well. So that's all I have for today, but thank you.
That's quite a whirlwind of stuff. That's
It
a lot,
is.
Darcy. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you.
We value you being here and appreciate it. Thank you. So good luck with everything.
Yes.
On to the next quarter, on to the next athletic season, and into the home stretch we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. And I do want to take a moment to recognize something that Darcy referenced, that this weekend the school committee was informed about 2 troubling situations affecting our community. And I just want to thank the administration for their engagement through the weekend. That was very much appreciated. You know, this was, and I also want to extend a thank you and gratitude to our law enforcement officials in Concord and in Carlisle, and for all of their work. So for both the administration, really, thank you.
Thank you.
You know, our thoughts are with everyone in this situation.
And I also want to thank the Concord Middle School nurses and staff and administration and Dr. Hunter, and I'm sure many, many other people who worked on the cases last week at Concord Middle School. And I hope we're going to hear a report that we're on the right path to.
Indeed, that'll be your good news.
Okay, good, good. So thank you very much. That's probably was a lot.
It was a lot.
Yes.
And caught us. not
Yeah, a little bit by
expecting it.
surprise, I
Yeah.
bet. Yes, okay.
All right.
So-
So with that, we will go to public comment. And I just want to take a moment to recognize that other committee members have reminded me and Cynthia to be more careful about observing our public comment protocols. At the last meeting, we permitted extended time allowances and engagement with visitors that deviated from our typical practices. And Cynthia and I recognize the need to exercise greater restraint in our public comment practices. And we hope that our visitors understand that this isn't to say that we don't invite public comment and we don't desire public commentary, or that we don't want to hear fully from the community members, but that we do recognize how consistent practices ensure better relationships with the community and within the committee itself. And so with that, I will return to my normal spiel about welcome for the public comment section. And if we will begin with people in the live audience where we have quite a few, yay. And please state your name and your address for the records. And please try to keep your comments to 3 minutes. And as a note that this is a school committee meeting in the public, but not with the public. And so we listen to your concerns and your thoughts. We take note of them, but we do not tend to engage. Thank you.
Akia Obas, a Boston resident. Closer. Akia Obas, a Boston resident. First, I want to start by saying the Boston resident community stands in unity with the family who is searching for their 9th grader. We would like to take a moment to recognize the pain that this family is going through, and we want to offer our love, our prayers, and support. Dear members of the Concord-Carlisle School Committee, in our letter dated March 8th, 2022, the Concord-Mecco Families Collective indicated mounting concerns in which we are seeking resolution in a timely responsiveness. In response to that letter, Superintendent Lori Hunter held a recorded Zoom meeting on March 15th at 10 a.m., which limited many of our working parents from attending. During the meeting, the chat feature was turned off. The families expressed concerns as we were unable to correspond with one another. After the meeting, Hunter sent a correspondence to the Mecco families with a link to the recording, which families could not access. These ongoing tactics are symbolic for the countless barriers we face, which contribute to no trust, faith, nor confidence in the current administration leading the district to become anti-racist. We ask the following of the school committee. What is your response to our letter dated March 8th, 2022, including the list of demands? When can we expect a written response to this letter? How can anti-racist strategic planning, inclusive of collective representation, become a regular agenda item in order for the school committee to ensure that there is a systematic priority to the district is actively tracking progress on? Our voices are critical in the process, and we believe district leadership does not address nor understand the magnitude of the issues surrounding inclusion, equity, and systematic oppression. We are not interested in performance interactions, including having weekly forums that become listening sessions that result in no action. We are interested in being contributing members of the anti-racist agenda. We believe that significant and strategic action must occur now and long-term. Our voices are integral. We demand that the STU committee open up a minimum of 2 seats for the Boston parents through a direct nomination by the MECO Families Advocacy Collective, thereby democratizing access and opportunity to amplify our voices and be part of the decision-making process. During our meeting on March 15th with Superintendent Hunter, we yet again raised concerns there are outstanding issues from families that have not been acknowledged or responded to. Her response was that families should reach out again. Why should the parents have to reach out again? It is your professional responsibility to respond. We find this response to be both offensive and irresponsible. We are seeking transparency and accountability by the school and district leadership as it relates to responding to parents and student concerns. The issue is easily remedied by a clear and transparent process for responses. Please provide us with the policy, plan, and process that is in place for district and school leadership as it relates to addressing outstanding and future parent and student concerns. The Concord MECO Families Collective would like to formally express our support for the MECO Director, Heidi Harris-Lamel. Mrs. Harris has demonstrated sincere care and strong advocacy for our children. She has been an invaluable resource to us. It is critical that you know the importance of having a MECO director that holds the trust of our community, has a passion and understanding of the unique needs of MECO, and shares relationship with our children and works tirelessly for them, as Heidi has done. On Wednesday, March 9th, Superintendent Hunter.
Excuse me. Yeah.
Thank you.
Your time is up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
My name is Kristen Hagerty, 95 Revolutionary Road. I'm going to yield some of my time if you don't mind.
We believe that she has placed a leave in retaliation for her advocating for MECO families who face issues of implicit and explicit racial hate, bias, and discrimination. Superintendent Hunter lied to the MECO families about the fact that the Superintendent Hunter placed Ms. Heidi on involuntary leave immediately following our initial letter to the school committee on March 8th. One Boston parent describes this wrongdoing, stating Mrs. Harris was punished for not silencing us. And the message this sends to all faculty and staff is that they advocate for the equity and anti-racism, then they too will be punished. While we are aware that Mrs. Harris has been placed on administrative leave, we are appalled by the actions and efforts and are deeply concerned by those who hold and abuse this power while contributing to the harm of us and our children. Furthermore, we believe that it is impossible and unfair to assume that Mr. Namichi can perform duties of the DEI director and acting MECO director. Mr. Namichi must begin to restorative healing process with students and families in an effort to regain our trust and confidence. Both students and families require this in order to build and restore a relationship with him. Multiple aggressive actions by district leadership continue to perpetuate systematic oppression that impacts many who have also suffered harm, including being taken out of the district when they have the courage to raise their voice and take a stand on behalf of our children. We recognize this risk for retaliation does not limit itself to staff alone. We as families understand we and our children may be subject to retaliation as part of our efforts in raising these harsh realities in our district. However, we stand together now as a uniting force for justice for our children and families. We demand for a quick return of the MECO director, Heidi Harris Lamel. In the interim, we request that Mrs. Deborah Jameson serve as an interim MECO director. We also request that the job descriptions for both the MECO director and the DEI director be emailed to concordmecofamilies@gmail.com. We seek additional information on the purpose, goals, structure, and timeline of the Superintendent's Parent Advisory Committee. Who are the members of this committee? Is this a newly formed group or an existing group? What is the purpose of the meetings, advisory or decision-making power? How often will these meetings occur? Will the meetings be in person or virtual? How can Concord Public Schools support MECO families in access and opportunity to these regularly scheduled meetings? The following parents are interested in
Time.
participating.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay.
My name is Erin Fife, 174 Hill Street, and I also would like to yield my time to the former speaker.
The following parents are interested in participating in the Parent Advisory Group: Akia Obas, Melissa Frederick, Tanika Williams, Domingos DeRosa, Melissa Olivia Ortiz, Nia Wilson, PhD. The unveiling of the strategic planning process raised many concerns and questions. How do we start this conversation, and how do we make Concord schools inclusive and equitable when we lack transparency and a clear timeline that includes an actionable plan? What is Concord's definition of anti-racism and equity? What strategies and initiatives can be addressed as sprints with clear timelines for implementation? Who are the consultants that are being used, and how are they supporting the work of the DEI director? How do families contact and access these consultants in a safe environment? When will the strategic plan that includes an actionable timeline be provided? What is the budget for DEI, and how is it being used? Diversity inclusion training for teachers are within the first 5 years of their employment. What can be done about that timeline for teachers to be required to participate in this training before or shortly after they're working with our children? Does the school committee and all of its constituents have a clear understanding of the history of MECO? What additional data points will be included in the plan, including subsequent action items to mitigate the disproportionalities between Black and Brown children and their white counterparts? Throughout the time that we have participated in the MECO program in Concord, there is little knowledge nor transparency on the process. Policies and intended practice that pertain to the handling of bullying, cyberbullying, civil rights violations, and sexual harassment. We are interested in having a clear and transparent information about the policies, process, and intended practices that Concord takes in these cases. We reviewed the working document that highlights a flow chart. We are seeking a longer, more comprehensive discussion on this process. During the presentation given by Mr. Nemichi on March 8th to the school committee, it was stated that the hiring practice, onboarding, and retention of educators of color would change to be more inclusive. We assume that this is a commitment is being made to ensure that the district has models of people of color for all students to learn from, and for children of color to be able to interact and learn from people who look like them. What is specific to the plan for this strategy? How will outreach look different? How will each hiring team in the schools be given a specific charge to ensure results? How will cultural competencies be at the forefront of the competencies required for educators and leaders to be hired in Concord? Transportation equals access. Transportation for MECO students continues.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and I'm going to note that we have 15 minutes on our agenda for the first public comment. So we will have our last public comment in person, and then we'll return to public comment towards the end of the meeting. So please.
Hi, my name is Rose Felix Presley, and I live at 79 Hillcrest Road in Concord, and I'd like to yield my time.
Transportation for MECO students continues to be a concern. Students should not be punished for not attending events that are required if transportation is not allowed, like Saturday sports requirements or morning chess. Additionally, the one stop at Franklin Park is extremely stressful. During the last blizzard, many families forced extreme challenges in dropping off their children because Franklin Park had an exorbitant amount of snow, and many MECO communities decided to do the same thing. All of the buses were trying to pick up students at the same place, causing chaos. We need to determine a safe snow emergency plan. In closing, the district's current response to our concerns is demoralizing, condescending, and patronizing. Meetings must be goal-oriented and actionable. While we still do not know what the plan is for moving Concord-Carlisle Regional School District to becoming an anti-racist, our Concord-Mecco Families Collective will continue to stand together as a uniting force for justice for our families seeking the accountability, transparency, care, and respect we all deserve. In unity and peace, Concord-Mecco Families Collective. Thank you.
Thank you. So we do have 3 more minutes left in our public comment time for right now. So we'll take the first raised hand online, seeing no more public comment in person. And so that will be Brad Hubbard Nelson.
Hello, I'm Brad Hubbard Nelson from 221 Nashottic Road. I'm a CCHS parent and a member of the school sustainability committee and also Concord Camp, and a founder of the Heat Smart Alliance, which promotes clean heating statewide. I'm commenting about the plans we heard about last week to replace the Alcott School boiler with another gas boiler. And I don't know whether electric alternatives were considered during that process, but we were told that it's probably too late to change that decision because it's a process that's been going on for a couple of years, seemingly without too much public scrutiny. It may be that a heat pump option would be more expensive. However, in the context of the climate emergency that we face, society can't afford to keep using the same fossil fuel burning heating when there's low emissions options. Concord's Climate Action Plan, adopted in 2020, requires lowering emissions by 50% in this decade. And the town is urging homeowners to transition to heat pumps when replacing or upgrading their home heating system. Homeowners can't be expected to do this at substantial cost if our town-owned buildings don't bother to. A decision like this affects our children's prospects for a livable climate. And if the school system were to change that decision and go electric, the example it would provide to the community and to other communities would be very positive. To that end, I urge the Concord School Committee to put the Alcott boiler project on hold and evaluate efficient electric alternatives, and if technically feasible, choose the low emissions option for the sake of our children's generation. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. And I know there are other members of the public who wish to participate in public comment, and just note that we do return to public comment before our action items. So just before discussion. So anyone who wants to speak, you are in line to speak next. And anyone else who wants to share something later on, it's not too late ever to join the public comment lineup. Okay, so with that, we'll go to recognitions.
So I'll invite Mr. Cameron and the teachers that are on with him as we recognize the hydroponic project at the middle school. There's Mr. Cameron.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for allowing us to come on and share an exciting partnership that we've had with Concord Ed Fund. We've also connected with the Concord Garden Club. They were not a fiscal, they did not fiscally contribute to this project. So I want to start off before I volley it over to our teachers and just thank the Concord Ed Fund for underwriting this project that is about to be shared with all of you. I think Maria is going to start.
Actually, I think Tara will start.
Okay.
Yes. Is it okay if I go ahead and share screen for some slides as well?
Absolutely.
Great.
If you want to introduce yourselves, since I forgot that piece as well.
Absolutely. Yes. And I would also like to welcome a student that is joining us as well, Dominic Sabatino. If you'd like to turn on your camera, Dominic, he can, be a part of sharing some of this too. So let's see here. Okay. Everyone seeing the slides there? Okay, so good evening to everybody. I'm Tara Fernandez Davila, a 7th grade science teacher and enrichment teacher at Sanborn Building. And I'm here with Maria. Maria, if you'd like to also just say hello.
Hi, I'm Maria McDermott, and I am the Family and Consumer Sciences teacher, health teacher for 7th grade, and I do an 8th grade enrichment as well.
Great. And we are both very excited to have been able to get this up and running this year, as Mr. Cameron said, through the help of the Concord Ed Fund. So just as in the last couple months, we've been able to really start growing and get this curriculum up and running. We have many benefits to this program. And one of the things we're most excited about is that these types of seed to community programs where we can garden within the school are becoming quite popular, and definitely something that a lot of schools are interested in. But they often start in the like food services side of things, whereas we have really taken this from the classroom up. And we are really trying to get as many students involved and get our curriculum connected to this growing process. And from there, bring it to the cafeteria and the food services system. So we're very excited about the project-based learning it can bring, the social emotional learning standards it can address, the many ways it can engage students, and ultimately also support very healthy lifestyle and options for our schools. So we're excited about that.
Okay, one thing I wanted to mention too is that this is called a terraponic growing system. So we're actually using soil, so we can pretty much grow anything that we decide to in these growing racks. We're not limited like some of the hydroponics growing is. Tara and I thought this was a great quote that you see above here. Give pupils something to do, not something to learn. And the doing is of such a nature as to demand thinking. Learning naturally results, by John Dewey. And here we have a couple of pictures of one of our students watering our growing racks, and the students really getting into the dirt and starting to break apart the soil for some new plantings that we started in Tara's room and Sharon Coblitz's room. My particular room has a lot of the greens, but we are actually going to be growing in Tara's room now things like tomatoes and peppers and cucumbers, things that can grow higher than what we see in the rack right here.
Right. We have many participants, and 6th grade science, along with Sharon Coblitz, will be getting started, and they are just getting the first plantings. We also have Maria's FACS classes, as she mentioned, the family and consumer sciences, where students do a lot of cooking, and you saw her racks in her classroom. I have plans to involve my 7th grade science students, and currently I'm working with my enrichment class called Ponds, Pools, and Produce, and have some garden leaders that are participating in getting this up and running and supporting the growth. Also, Maria has an enrichment class called Regional Foods of the US, and you're going to see some of them already using some of the produce in their cooking class. So this is just a look at, a little timeline of what we've already seen, some amazing progress from the time we first started planting. So you can see back in January where we were starting to see some sprouts. And is Dominic with us? Dominic, my student, who's been a part of my enrichment class over the winter. If you would like to say hello, Dominic, you're welcome to mention some of the things you've been doing to support this growth and these particular documents we've been showing.
All right. Hello, my name is Dominic Sabatino, and I was one of the gardeners who took care of the plants, and it was really fun getting to do all the watering and taking care of the light for the plants, and also just watching them grow, I guess. Yeah, that's it.
Nice. It is pretty simple. It's pretty amazing how much you can get out of it. It's set up to be so ideal with the soil and the way the lights are set up, but it does take, monitoring that Dominic was a part of to be able to get it all to be in its best conditions and grow at its best. So we're very happy with the results so far.
And here we have some pictures of my FACS class, which actually I took yesterday. We were able to start harvesting some of our lettuces for our Greek food lab. The students were making a salad, and you can see what some of the growth looks like up close. They're trimming. These actual growing racks give us 3 harvests. So this is the first harvest, and then once we trim the produce down, we'll still get 2 more harvests. And then we will be recycling the soil, composting the soil, and we should be able to just turn around the soil from now until who knows when. It will go on for a long, long time with the composting. And then here you can see the salad that the students prepared and one of the students cutting up the lettuce. Here's a picture from the outside of my fax room. I have a nice window there, so the students, as they come by every day, have been able to witness from the seeds being put in all the way until now. As you can see, we have quite a full window there of produce that we are anxiously going to be using in the next couple of weeks. Dom will also be using this in his fax class within the next week or 2.
So we thank you all for attending and enjoying what we're excited to get started here. Thank you all.
Thank you
Thank
very
you so
much.
much. Thank you both. This is wonderful. I'm getting hungry. Yes, thank you all for joining. This is wonderful. More than muffins.
Right. Compliment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right, so on
Okay.
to a reading of the minutes. Can I take a motion to accept the minutes from the open session of February 15th, 2022?
So moved. Yeah, good to me.
Just need a second.
Second.
All right.
All right, all in favor?
Aye. That's the weird. Yes.
Opposed? No, okay. And
On to
on
correspondence.
to correspondence. At the region, we only had a correspondence about masks, just about where do we stand for this week with the new developments in the middle school. And that was,
I think
it was more of a directed towards but it came to the region. Yep.
Okay, so we had 2 emails regarding gas boilers and an email from Core. And that's all I remember. I checked.
And so with that, chairs and liaisons reports.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I am chair of DEI, and we started our school committee training last week, which was great, with Dr. Martin and with Ed Burns. And I think we all wished it went on longer. So we were here from 4 to 7 in person and a little bit hybrid. Eva was at home. So we're glad to see you back with us again today. And our next session will be on Monday, March 28th from 4 to 7. And our third session will be Tuesday, April 12th from 4 to 7. So it'll be the same format. We'll meet in the room. I think we've figured out our technology in the room. So we were shifting around back and forth, but I think, everyone here really appreciated the training, and I'm glad that we've committed to doing that. And then our subcommittee meetings, it's been challenging to schedule the April one before vacation, because we are spending a lot of time, which we want to be spending during the DEI, but I think that the subcommittee meeting, our next one, we definitely have scheduled is May 11th from 10:30 to 12. And we're going to hear from Mr. Nemichi at that meeting and get back to the information from the equity audit. So that's just a preview of what's to come in May.
Great. Yeah.
CPAC. So CPAC had a meeting on Monday, March 15th. I always look back at our meeting notes, and I say every time we had a really productive meeting. It was another productive meeting. 2 main things I want to emphasize that came out of that meeting. One was that the CPAC agreed that they had interest, and they have, much more flexibility, for example, than we do, to put a Metco family representative on their board. So that will, I think, be kicking off soon. I don't know precisely what outreach they've done yet and how exactly that will go, but that was discussed. They put it really nicely. They said, you know, a number of the people on the board at CPAC were present at our last meeting, and you know, we heard the public comment. We really took it in. We synthesized it and wanted to make some meaningful action quickly, and so they did. And then the second piece that I think is interesting, the CPAC board did put out to the select board yesterday a formal request for a seat on the CMSBC meeting. As I've said a number of times to you all, inclusive design is something that they are, as a group, very interested in as the building progresses to the more technical aspects of what we're doing. They're not going to get a seat probably, but which is okay, and they sort of expected that. But to that end, we will work. Me as the liaison, I did clue in Dr. Hunter this morning. We are going to, because a seat will likely not be granted, what instead we're going to do is formalize sort of a feedback loop so that they can ensure that the things that they perceive to be really necessary are in fact heard by the committee, and to ensure on a regular basis at their meetings, they will be updated as to the progress of inclusive design and what in particular is happening in that regard. So there was good openness to that. And I don't think they've received a formal response from the select board, but that was sort of where we were going with it if a seat was not made available. So that's those are the two big things that came out of that meeting. Eva, you were kind of in and out.
Yes, we had
Did I miss
caucus,
anything?
Carlisle caucus, just the recipes on the region that and then Mark is coming.
Oh,
to-
yeah.
Yeah, to do the outreach and work with the teachers and administration at the high school to.
Debbie's update was pretty robust and had a lot of back and forth and questions. So she's been an invaluable resource coming to those meetings, I would say, because there's just so much back and forth, and all many questions are getting answered, and there's a good dialogue that's been established. So that's it.
The middle school building committee design subcommittee met last week, and what we saw was what I believe will constitute the major portion of this week's full meeting, Thursday morning, 7:30 in the morning, a public meeting on Zoom. We specifically looked at the changes brought forward by the architects that were an effort to address some of the value engineering or cost reduction necessary to keep us to our budget. In practical terms, the community will not see one corridor separating locker rooms and gymnasium, but no impact on its educational plan, of course, and actually no impact on use of the gymnasium for school or community. And then we took a closer look at some of the exterior facings. And the visuals, I think, are going to impress people. It's a very natural looking 4-color scheme that we think really affirms the kind of values that we ask the architects to bear in mind when they put this together. So again, that'll get rolled out Thursday morning.
Okay, thank you all. So on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you. I'm going to just highlight a few portions of my report, knowing you can read the rest and some of it overlaps with the remainder of the agenda. I'm going to focus on special education, and actually a good amount of what Alexa reported out on CPAC is work that I'm either participating in with CPAC or working on with the administrators and building-based leaders. So we've been meeting regularly to look at our continuum of programs. I met with the K-5 principals and Ms. Dixon for 5 hours in this room a few weeks ago, and really did a big picture view of what we were proposing and offering in special education and what was working and what needed and might need some tweaking. And we were really able to look at that in terms of staffing, in terms of services, in terms of the continuum, and also look at it horizontally, which was the reason we did it as a K-5 group. And additionally, we're looking at meeting, Debbie and I meet regularly and talk on needs that she's seeing, whether it be the goals that she set for systemic processes to tighten up and sync up pre-K through 22, or whatever other patterns and trends that she's seeing. She's done a really great job of both identifying those and starting to make change, which has been really well received in a very short amount of time. So it's been really encouraging and positive direction in that regard. Again, as Alexa mentioned, I met with Debbie and the CPAC president and talked on the upcoming agenda and some other items. We're working on engagement with the building project. We're very shortly going to be connecting with the inclusion consultant that's embedded in the design development portion of the middle school project. So it'll be great to partner with CPAC on that input. And then I really am looking and working with both Debbie and Denise on in HR in securing the interim directorship for a second year. And that'll be a late spring event, given the course of processes we need to follow. So stay tuned for that. But I think we're all in agreement. Debbie's been a really big value add, and one more year under her leadership would put us in really good standing a year from now. In terms of literacy and the work we've been doing there, and Kristen should chime in at any point, we continue to work with the MTSS team that Kristen and Debbie lead. So they're preparing for a literacy forum. We're going to give you a preview of that at the May 10th meeting is where it's tentatively slated. And then a full forum on the 16th for the community. That'll be available through Zoom so that it's accessible to everyone. And that'll be the big picture view and look at our best practices and the way in which we're approaching all aspects with a specific focus also on phonics for sure. Summer school, again, is attached very closely to reading instruction and is very data driven so that students are being invited based on their winter data benchmarks. We have dates set for summer school of July 11th through August 5th. We've gone back to 4 weeks. We had condensed to 3, and this year feel strongly 4 is going to better serve students coming off of the pandemic. So we're excited by that and really looking at how the data is informing what those practices will be. And in that same way, I was able to connect with each leadership team at the elementary schools in literacy and look at the data collection processes that they're using. Kristen's job is to sync them all up because each K-5 school has its own approach to some extent, not widely varying, but you know, unique to them. So that's part of the job of the committee, is to decide where we're going to be consistent, where we might have a little bit of variation. It was really exciting to listen to the folks really working directly with students, gathering data, tracking data, intervening with tools that align with that, and really their, you know, satisfaction when they see progress, their review and regrouping when they don't, and what they do next. A lot of passionate work going on. So to hear that firsthand from them was really, really, really exciting. So I think those are my highlights. I'll let you read the rest, and other topics will come up later in the meeting.
Are there any questions? Okay.
If I may, Dr. Hunter, could you speak to the summer school dates? They seem unusual, but I'm sure there's a good reason that we don't know.
Yeah,
about.
we really worked with the July 4th week differently this summer. Last summer, we had tried to bring summer school online a portion of the week of July 4th, and it's just too much of a conflict with vacation. So we pushed it out the whole week to the week of the 11th, and we're going to run into the first week in August.
Great. Okay, thank you. You referenced a reduction in the CPS budget. I trust we can circle around to that later tonight. I think is that an agenda item tonight?
Yes.
And then finally, I look forward to learning more about the Metco advisory group, because I think the work to align it with other activities is going to be important to us.
Very much so.
Thank you.
Great. COVID update discussion.
Certainly. Let me just pull the data up here for you to see.
Hopefully not much to discuss.
Not too much to discuss, other than a quick review of last week. I'm sorry, I had it ready and now I don't. Having the Zoom open with all the other documents becomes a bit of a challenge. Well, I'm going to just speak to it so I don't hold you up anymore. Last week, as you know, we had a surge at Peabody, specifically very much contained to Peabody was the good news. We ultimately ended up with 52 cases at Peabody, 50 of those being students. So it was the 11-year-olds that were acquiring the virus and clearly spreading it, sharing it among each other. So total of 88 cases last week. Clearly, most of those at the middle school. We worked very closely, as all of you know, with the local health officials, with DESE, with the state epidemiologists. By Friday, because really it was the absence rate that drove the decision to just catch our breath on Friday and allow instruction to cease for just that one day, because so many kids were homesick. It was complicating the path of instruction so greatly. We've done really well since then, just a handful of cases since Friday. So we seem to have had it go through and retreat just as fast. We're glad for that. And we're watching the numbers this week. We're up a bit. It's 22 so far to date this week. Some of them are siblings of Peabody. So we know there's some household spread going on as a result of that, but we're keeping an eye on it. There's no one spot that's concentrated. It's fairly equally spread across the schools, the 22 cases that we have. So I don't believe we're headed towards another Peabody type of event. And we're hopeful that that's behind us and the masks will come off at Peabody the way we had said they would. And we're back on track to mask optional and all activities resuming essentially normally. Little blip on the radar.
And is that tomorrow or is that?
It's tomorrow. Yeah,
Okay.
we picked Monday and Tuesday to mask so we could get them all back in together, get pool testing behind us, see the data from the weekend. All of it's really, really stable. So there's no reason not to unmask tomorrow.
And across the board, has it been mild cases?
Very mild, consistently, which is also really important. Yeah, you know, we did see one study. I think the conclusion of the Peabody event is a bit of a combination of factors, but certainly the vaccine seems the least effective in the 11-year-olds. The studies show that. And then we put all 11-year-olds together and took the masks off, and Omicron must have made its way in. So hopefully we're behind that and we're back stable and moving forward.
Are any of the public health folks talking to us about the subvariant and whether that's arrived?
Yeah, DESE mentioned that specifically. We made it to their medical team last week. There was question at DESE if the subvariant had been a piece of this. What I learned in talking with all these experts is there's a lot of hypotheses and theories and not much way to confirm. So
okay.
Could be.
It's a could be. Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
If there is another situation like that, like in any of the schools, is there any discussion of, like, is there any preparation or discussion of remote at all?
No.
No.
And in fact, that was a discussion we had about Friday, was
Yeah.
whether or not we would consider going remote. We felt, well, one, DESE would have to grant that. I don't
Yeah.
have authority for that. But two, we also had 50 kids homesick. And we weren't sure remote was going to be successful with so many ill kids, and the turnaround time to do it on a dime like that. We're not as facile at it as we were, and we just didn't think it would be the most effective instructional day.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you.
Okay. Great. Thank you. So tonight we have with us members of the World Language teacher team from middle and high school, and they've prepared an interactive and engaging presentation that we've gotten a preview of through our agenda, but we have been much looking forward to seeing live and in action. Well, I don't know, live, whatever that means anymore.
Yeah.
Yes, in action.
Real time.
So thank you for joining us this evening. And yep, please do.
Needs a mic.
An explanation of why I invited our world language leaders to present to you, because their work is truly remarkable. Remarkable for three reasons. The first is makes us one of the only districts to offer world language to all students in elementary. So all students K-5 take Spanish twice a week. That's unusual to have elementary language. and it's unusual for it to be offered to all students. So both of those things make us really unique. And in the, I guess, 5 years since we implemented the program, we have had to integrate it with our existing programs at the middle school and the high school. So you could think that would be really hard, but these folks who worked on it made it actually very seamless because of the second piece that I'll mention, which is they have a particular approach to teaching world languages to make them engaging. It's called comprehensive input, but you'll see it's doing plays, it's reading books, it's having conversations, it's having a little store set up. They're not sitting around having a teacher talk at them. So it's really, really an engaging class. And then the last thing that I'll mention that makes our program, I think, unique and has Concord sort of a step above is in all teaching of world language, you are teaching, speaking, listening, reading, and writing. That's what the standards say. Like every other content area in our curriculum, we use it as an opportunities to provide multicultural windows and doors into other cultures so that if kids aren't from the cultures that we're studying, they can learn more about them. So I've asked them to highlight those three things because these ladies love this program so much they could talk forever. So without further ado, maybe Yolanda, you can start.
Thank you for having us. Good evening. I'm happy to be here tonight to share with you what our students learn in the world language programs at CPS and CCHS. I'm here with my colleagues Annette Howard, Courtney Sawicki, and Caitlin Smith, and they will introduce themselves when they speak later. My name is Yolanda Volpe, and after 21 years of teaching Spanish at CCHS, and for some of the time, I was chair of the World Language Department. I am now the facilitator of the Concord Induction and Mentoring Program, and I've been working with the elementary teachers, K-5 Spanish teachers, who are amazing, to write curricula for each grade level each year as we went on. We are now completing our 5th year, and I'm happy to report that the students are loving it and they are learning a lot of Spanish. So after that, I'd like to go on to give you a quick highlight. My role tonight is to talk to you about what research says about the benefits of learning languages and what the best practices are for teaching and learning a language. So as you know, the Department of Elementary and DESE, Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, places world language among the core curricula. It is not an elective. Next slide, please, Annette. And additionally, they make a statement that says, we believe that all Massachusetts students should acquire language and should acquire cultural linguistic proficiency in at least one other language than English. Proficiency in one or more world languages will empower all students to use languages other than English to tell their own stories, understand the stories of others, and engage in their communities. So why is it critical to learn other languages in 2022? We all know that we have lots of new technologies. All our smartphones can speak pretty much any language we want them to do. So why is it that researchers and others tell us that it's critical to continue teaching and learning languages? Well, for one thing, we all know that the world is flat. I have that in quotes, so in quotations. It's smaller, it's more interconnected than ever before. Language is a bridge to the culture of the people who speak it. So learning a language leads to an appreciation of other cultures, promotes global understanding and cultural competency. Learning a language is an interdisciplinary endeavor. We don't only learn words and verbs, which are essential to understand the structure and the grammatical structures of a language, but we learn those to move on and communicate. For example, in the business world or when traveling, those who know another language often have an advantage over those who do not. You have to click again, Annette, sorry. Oh, there we go. So according to research, what are these benefits? Why is it important to acquire one or more language? So researchers have known for a long time, and there has been some debate about this, but mostly and consistently, they talk about how it provides cognitive benefits for students. It fosters a global mindset and an appreciation for linguistic and cultural differences. It supports higher academic achievement across the curricula, enhances problem-solving skills, creativity, and flexible thinking. And they found that children who are in effective early second language programs show overall gains on standardized tests of basic skills and derive additional cognitive, social, and affective benefits. I have my sources at the bottom here. There are links. And I meant to say that additionally, it has been proven that language learning physically affects the brain, the density of our gray matter. So it makes our brain more active and it helps us stay engaged. So my next slide is about diversity, equity, and inclusion. We know that this is a critical goal for the Concord schools. And we feel that as language educators, we see that word language classroom is often the first place where students become aware of the world around them and how diverse it is. And they get firsthand experience in seeing different cultures and different languages, obviously, and thus grow with an understanding of diversity. We engage our students not only in the study of language, but in the study of the language geography, celebration, music. In other words, all aspects of culture, and hence it being a interdisciplinary subject. These are some images from CMS, Concord Middle School, where the teachers have invited speakers, artists, performers from different cultures of different countries. And with their presentations, they bring what the students are learning in the classroom, they bring it to life for them. And the educators at CPS and CCHS, we work hard to stay aligned with ACTFL, DESE, and NEL. These are national institutions, except for Massachusetts, who design or define what our standards and frameworks are. So we adopt the best practices in teaching world languages, and we work hard to stay aligned with them. This next slide is a video from ACTFL, and it's brief, but it gives you an idea what the standards are nationally.
Learning languages prepares us to connect in the multilingual and multicultural world we share. ACTFL and 16 other language organizations collaborated to create the World Readiness Standards for Learning Languages. Recently, the standards were modified to focus on literacy, real-world applications of language, and 21st century skills. These standards serve as a roadmap to guide learners to communicate effectively and interact with global competence while participating in communities locally and globally. Supporting this vision are 5 goal areas, also known as the 5 C's: communication, cultures, connections, comparisons, and communities. Integrating these goal areas into instructional programs helps students become world-ready educated citizens.
Thank you, Annette. And this is some terminology used to describe language teaching and learning. So Kristen mentioned comprehensible input. It's one of the things. The first one on my list here is proficiency, which refers to being able to speak spontaneously about a variety of topics and achieve communication, not memorized, but be able to respond and to converse about something that's relevant at that moment. Comprehensible input refers to the ability of the listener to understand as much as possible, even though they don't know every word or every single sound, but because the speaker uses visuals, gestures, and context to make the language understood. So a classroom teacher who's teaching Chinese, Spanish, French, doesn't have to resort to English to have the student understand what he or she wants them to know. And second language acquisition is the preferred way to talk about learning a language, because as young children, everyone learns their own language, but they learn it through acquisition. by repeating, making mistakes, and then learning it. No one sits a 2 or 3 year old down and says, this is a verb, and this is the subject, and this is how we conjugate. And yet they all learn how to do that. They say things correctly. So we aim towards acquisition, which means that if a student makes a mistake, we keep going and we keep stressing that languages are for communicating and they don't have to speak perfectly while they're learning. Next slide. And I want to thank you, and I want to say that we know we cannot teach or learn all the languages spoken in the world, but we aim to spark a love and interest of languages in our students. And we want them to understand the language study is to get to know other people in the world and to communicate with them. And whether people who are diverse from them or different from them or like them. And that's what we hope to achieve. So thank you again. And now I will turn it over to Annette Howard.
Hola, my name is Annette Howard, and I am one of the 4 Spanish teachers at Concord Public Schools. Besides empowering students to communicate in Spanish, we aim to create enthusiasm for world cultures, as well as a desire to continue learning languages and embrace multiple perspectives. Okay. Oh boy, sorry. Today, I'm going to give you just a few highlights of our program, of what our program looks like. You can visit the district website to see a full description of our kindergarten through 5th grade curriculum. And my computer's being a little difficult. Oh, here we go. Okay. Wants to do this slide now. Students in kindergarten through 5th grade receive Spanish instruction twice a week for 25 minutes. This adds up to 30 hours of instruction for academic year. Students entering kindergarten leave 5th grade with about 180 hours of Spanish. Since proficiency is based on hours of instruction, that means that 5th graders will leave Concord Public Schools with a proficiency of novice mid to novice high, maybe even a few at intermediate low. Students and teachers use Spanish the majority of the time. We use a lot of visuals, hand gestures, and acting to make what we're saying in Spanish comprehensible without using English. We show students that speaking a new language is a journey. When I ask them a question, for example, ¿Cómo estás?, students can answer with, estoy bien, estoy muy bien, estoy muy bien, gracias, ¿y tú? And for every word that they say, we add a scoop of ice cream. This visual encourages students to speak in sentences and chunks instead of individual words. They always aim for a question, which is the story, the cherry on top, because that encourages back and forth communication. Our main focus is on comprehension and verbal communication. We believe that the most effective way to acquire a language is through the use of activities and games that are engaging and fun. This video is from Thoreau, and it shows a very fun and engaging way to count. Students in kindergarten have to count to 10 before they can throw off the stuffed animal from the parachute. Working in groups is a fundamental language classroom activity. With the use of sentence frames and a word bank, students go from passively listening to actively producing Spanish. This video shows 3rd graders from Thoreau say what they like to eat and then answer the question why. This type of activity requires students to speak and complete more complex sentences. At the end of this unit, a student will be able to say, I like to eat bacon because it's delicious, instead of just, I like bacon.
Me gusta comer tocino porque es delicioso.
Third graders from Willard sing this lullaby about a very small, very special frog that lives in Puerto Rico. I have been told that they also live in the Dominican Republic, Hawaii, and Florida, but they did originate in Puerto Rico. Music and songs are a very important part of our learning our native language, and they can also help learn additional languages. The rhythm of music and the repetitive patterns within songs help students memorize the words. Even if the words are unfamiliar at first, mimicking the words in a song can help students practice producing sounds that are new and unfamiliar. So here are the third graders from Willard. And this is what the actual cookie sounds like. And that was recorded in Puerto Rico. There are many benefits to playing games when learning a new language. The most obvious is they help build culture, they increase student engagement, and they bring a lot of joy. One less obvious benefit is that games are a great way to build vocabulary. It always amazes me how quickly students pick up new vocabulary when they learn it as part of a game. Fifth graders from Alcott are practicing vocabulary from a book that we were reading called Biblioburro, and they're playing ice skating charades.
Rápido. El fuego. El fuego. Es grande, pequeño. Diferente, diferente. Más o menos. Alto y beto.
Come on. Oops. Okay. Students at the row were asked to take a song they learned in music class and rewrite the lyrics. They could write about anything as long as they used the original melody and ukulele pattern. These fifth graders created a song in Spanish.
3, 4. ¿Dónde está la biblioteca? ¿Dónde está la clase de música?
I think these students show that they're ready at a novice high and ready for middle school. Here to talk about the middle school program is Courtney.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Courtney Sawicki. I am the chair of the World Language Department at CMS, and I also teach French. The World Language Program at CMS is a comprehensive program. It's a 3-year program beginning in 6th grade. So the students entering 6th grade have the option of continuing their study of Spanish from elementary school, or they could choose a new language, French or Mandarin Chinese. Our 6th grade students have world language class 4 times per 6-day rotation. We have a 6-day cycle in the middle school. So 6th graders have language 4 times, and our 7th and 8th graders have language 5 times out of the 6-day rotation. And our world language teachers really aim to use 90% of the target language in their classes. Next slide, please. So what do our classes look like? As Kristen mentioned earlier, the 4 skills of learning language, reading, writing, listening, and speaking, we try to hit each of these skills in every single class period. So reading, for example, next slide. Reading, for example, is something that we do in all of our class periods. So what you see in front of you are just a few of the examples of the readers that we use at the middle school. Le Maillot, a book that I am currently teaching in 8th grade French, explores the life of a boy who lives in the Ivory Coast. So the students are exposed to French, but they're also getting that cultural aspect of life in the Ivory Coast and the similarities and differences that country has with their own country. And then, of course, reading has all kinds of amazing benefits, learning vocabulary and grammar, language structure. It helps to reinforce words, help you to learn words in context. And then, of course, reading is fun. Next slide, please. In our classes, we also do a lot of writing. So what you see in front of you is a sample of a student in our Mandarin Chinese class. So the 7th grade sample on the left, both students have the same writing prompt. So in 7th grade, they're talking about their age, likes, dislikes, family. So you'll see that the 7th grader was able to write a pretty solid paragraph. And then on the right-hand side, an 8th grader using the same prompt is able to add a significant amount of detail in his or her writing. So there's, a pretty amazing sort of progression in language that happens over the 3 years. Next slide, please. Listening and speaking are also crucial components in learning language. So the first sample that I have is of our 8th grade Spanish teacher who is presenting an activity to the students. She is speaking only in Spanish, and I was in the class, and I can confirm that the kids were able to follow her instructions without any problem at all.
Esto es más duro, tu póster, ¿sí comprendo? Y en grupo de 2, con tu amigo, vas a tomar tu póster, tu trabajo, y vas a presentar a tu amigo tu trabajo. Vas a decir, oh, mi parte favorita es capítulo 5, porque, y describes a tu amigo. Una conversación de 2 minutos, ¿sí comprendo? Sí. Ok, número 1, esta es Melanie. Melanie, gracias.
Thank you. And then the next sample of student work is an example of speaking. So this is 2 8th grade French students, and they are talking about shopping. So what they plan to buy, how much it might cost. And these students are, I would say, at about a novice high, maybe pushing into an intermediate low level of language.
Bonjour. Bonjour, je vais à Barnes & Noble parce que j'ai besoin d'un livre pour ma vacances demain.
Je vais aussi à Barnes & Noble. J'ai besoin d'un livre parce que j'ai fini mon dernier livre et je m'ennuie. Qu'est-ce que tu cherchais aujourd'hui?
Je veux trouver un livre.
Quel livre est-ce que tu veux?
Je pense que je veux Percy Jackson, mais je ne sais pas. Je ne le vois pas le livre et j'ai besoin de livre aujourd'hui.
Je pense que j'ai vu le livre là-bas.
Oh, merci, mais c'est trop cher. C'est 20 €. Quel livre est-ce que tu cherchais?
Je cherchais Harry Potter. J'ai entendu que c'est très bon.
J'ai vu le livre là-bas. À mon avis, c'est bon marché.
Combien ça coûte?
Ça coûte 10 €. C'est très bon marché.
Oui, je suis d'accord. C'est un bon prix. Je pense que je vais acheter le livre.
J'espère que tu aimes le livre.
Merci, à bientôt.
Au revoir.
Thank you. I think there's one more slide in there, just the thematic units that we do. Yeah, there we go. So these are the thematic units that we cover at the middle school. So students in 6th grade explore talking about their own identity and the identity of other students across the world. And they also look at school life, not only school life in the United States, but school life in Spanish speaking, French speaking, and Chinese speaking countries around the world. 7th graders explore families and free time or leisure activities. And then in 8th grade, we explore health, food, and communities. Communities, again, not only in the United States, but communities across the world. And on that note, I'm going to pass it on to my colleague, Caitlin Smith at CCHS. Thank you.
Bonsoir and good evening. My name is Caitlin Smith, and I am a French teacher as well as the World Language Department Chair at CCHS. To continue with the theme of inclusion, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the many cultures and languages that exist in Concord schools. As you know, Spanish is a key language for many of our students and families alongside English. And when you look at this map, you can see the other languages that are flourishing in our country, including French in the Northeast, in Louisiana, and of course up north in Canada, as well as the importance of Chinese in New York and on the West Coast. We honor all of our students' heritage at CCHS with our Global Competence Program and cultural clubs, while teaching Chinese, French, Latin, and Spanish as core courses in our World Language Program. Next slide, please. At CCHS, we also offer interactive cultural experiences that have been fully supported by the Concord Ed Fund, such as concerts with the Togolese singer Brice Capel, salsa lessons with the Noche Latina Dance Company, visits from Roman reenactors, and Chinese calligraphy sessions. Our students love these opportunities to hear, see, and experience culture in action. Next slide. At the high school level, students can begin any language of their choice. They can add a language to the one they are currently studying, or they can switch to a new language that they have always wanted to learn, such as Latin, which is foundational to our Romance languages, as well as English. We have about 50 students who take 2 languages at CCHS because they find studying language to be so rewarding. Next slide, please. World languages are core courses at CCHS. just as they are at CMS. They meet just as often as the other major subjects, and as you can see, certain colleges do expect students to take a certain number of years of the same language when possible. Let me correct that, actually. We're core courses at CCHS, and at CMS, they meet regularly, but not quite as much as some. Thank you. I'd like to use the rest of my time sharing the ways that students use their language skills to create connections and expand their horizons. At CC, we did a school-wide survey about what engaged students in learning, and one of the top 3 answers was relevance. Students engage in their studies when they feel the skills and content relates to their lives and futures. In this Spanish 2H video, for instance, you will see how this student is able to talk about his daily routine in a humorous but also practical way.
Mi rutina diaria comenzó en la mañana. Yo me levanto a las 6:05 de la mañana. Eso es una mentira. Yo me levanto a las 7:15 de la mañana. Entro en pánico y me voy a vestir. Yo corro abajo y como desayuno. Yo como un bocadillo de huevos y corro arriba para cepillarme los dientes y me afeito. Entonces conduzco para la escuela.
That's just part of a very humorous and effective presentation by one of our Spanish 2H classes. In the next video, a Chinese 3 student explains in depth not only the features of the city of Harbin, but why she hopes to go there someday. This student is developing proficiency in presenting data and opinions in a coherent way.
可以去 Siberian Tiger Park， 夏天可以吃 Harbin 饭， 四季可以买东西， 冬天是最好的季节， 因为我觉得滑雪和去 Harbin International Ice and Festival 真好玩。
Thank you. When you watch this Latin 4 presentation, you will notice that Latin is often spoken in our classrooms. The new Massachusetts guidelines encourage students to read, speak, and write in the target language, as these students do by explaining the myth of the huntress Diana. As you will see, the students can fluidly translate complex and culturally rich Latin while explaining how this text is reflected in the artwork of the artist Titian.
In Diana and Actaeon, Ovid examines the role of fate. At the beginning of the poem, he writes, Fortunae crimen in illo non scelus invenies. And this translates to, you will find a crime of fate in this man, not a crime of wickedness. Ovid makes it clear that Actaeon is another victim of fate and must face the punishment for this crime that he didn't intend on happening. Titian illustrates Actaeon's fate through Actaeon's form. As Actaeon arrives at the grove, Ovid writes, Nepos cadmi dilata parte laborum, per nemus ignotum non certis passibus errans per venit in lucum, sic illum fata ferabant. And this translates to wandering through the unknown grove with not certain footsteps. Thusly the fates were bringing him. Titian depicts Actaeon with his hands up in surprise, showing that Actaeon didn't have ill intentions walking in on Diana, but through his expression we see that he realizes his fate is already sealed.
Thank you. Here is a French video that shows students warming up. Sorry, well, that's spontaneous. They're warming up for what I call spontaneous dialogues. French 4 students prepare 5 topics and then pick a partner's name out of the hat to improvise one of these topics for more than a minute in front of the class. As you can see, they are enjoying this opportunity for interpersonal communication. And finally, here is a presentation by an AP French student, Mia Caruso, to my French 4 honors class. We encourage our students to study current events and then share their work with students at other levels. Like many of our students, Mia plans to continue studying language in college and to pursue a career that centers around French.
Emmanuel Macron, son parti politique, c'est La République en marche. Il l'a créé et aussi Il a étudié à les universités prestigieuses et comme Sciences Po, l'École nationale d'administration. Et il est maintenant le président de la France. Et il était ministre de l'économie, l'industrie et les données digitales avant qu'il était président. Et son programme est sur l'unité européenne, la vaccination et le contrôle des frontières et la collaboration.
Having come through our K-12 program, our students at CC relish the opportunity to use the language skills that they've learned in real-life situations while expanding their cultural horizons. Here are just a few images from interdisciplinary field trips. Here we see Latin students attending a manuscript translation hackathon at Holy Cross, and world language students studying the Normandy landings at the International World War II Museum and artwork at the Museum of Fine Arts. You will also see images from our international exchanges and travels. Next slide, please. As you can imagine, one of our great joys as world language teachers is to see our students navigate the family life, classrooms, metro systems, and other cultural aspects of living abroad. Throughout their school trips, CC students make long-lasting connections to friends and cultural traditions in their host countries. And when they return, they share their excitement and improved language skills, inspiring their classmates to use world language in their everyday lives. And now we'll see some images from our different exchanges and trips abroad. You'll see everything from Beijing, Rome, Paris, Quito, and more. One of our favorite things to do as a department. We deeply appreciate your supporting our students' efforts to pursue their modern and classical language studies from elementary school through their senior year. Your invitation to present our programs tonight signals your unwavering commitment to the students of Concord, Carlisle, and Boston as they develop the skills and confidence to function successfully in diverse cultures here at home and abroad as truly global citizens. Gracias, xie, gratias, and merci beaucoup.
Awesome, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, you really see how that
Progression.
the beginning, the progression, the beginning with the
Yeah.
focus on questions and all of that, that really engenders kind of a, the relevance and just a fostering of an embracing of the language and the cultures that these students are studying. So thank you for sharing that with us. That's awesome.
Thank you for all those clips. That's really great to see it. That's one of the problems, I think, for school committees. We get slides, we don't necessarily see what's really going on in the classroom. So that's awesome to see all that work. And I know there's a lot of work to put that all together. So I appreciate that.
There were decades when the only way K-5 students could do language was before school, and it meant very few could. The fact that everybody participates now is a huge change that is now fully embedded in our district. And credit to you folks for making it successful. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. No questions? No, thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
All right, so switching gears now to the Concord public hearing, Articles 22 and 44. And we did have a development because Carlisle FinCom met last night. So I have a couple of updates on the article, which is our Article 20, but Concord 22 on that. But yeah, yes, exactly. Yeah, the capital warrant article. So there were some developments following the Concord FinCom meeting. I don't know, Dr. Hunter, if you want to talk about just the change of
I could talk about the timeline.
Yep, that's sort of the focus for the school committee to just be.
We met with the Concord town moderator following the realization that the capital article to pave the roadway had not been put on the ballot in time for the April election. So we reviewed options, and consensus was to put that vote on the primary vote in September. So September 6th. Sorry, I don't have it in front of me.
Tuesday.
September 6th, Tuesday will be the vote, pending successful passage at both town meetings. So Concord will do the first round of town meeting and then the vote in the fall. So that's what was decided.
So it was just important to bring it to school committee's attention that there'll be, just a remind, we'll need to remind the community of the importance of voting.
Yes, and it will be, the clerk in Concord told us to be 3 separate ballots, a Democratic, a Republican, and then a separate ballot for the yes.
Oh, yes,
So,
okay.
So we'll just have to be sure that people understand they need to get that 3rd ballot. I mean, it's their job to
So you
get,
get 2 ballots.
yes, whichever
Like if
party
you're
you're,
unenrolled, you get an unenrolled and.
correct, yep.
No, you usually pick.
Because if you're
If you're
unenrolled, you can
unenrolled.
pick which one you want.
Yeah, I'm unenrolled, for example, I pick.
But you would get a
The-
separate ballot just for this,
Yes.
No matter what.
no matter what.
Yeah.
Correct.
Or you could go and just vote on this.
True. Uh-huh,
Should you not have any
yes.
skin in the game in the primary
correct.
itself. So we'll need to keep that on our radars and figure out how over the summer we can just sort of message, not unlike reminding people to vote in the special elections for Carrie's joining us here at the middle school.
Yeah, the state primaries is a difficult time. This is right after Labor Day. Is that Labor Day? I'm not even sure.
Yeah,
I think it is.
must be.
Uh-huh. Okay. And then Article 44 is the.
I just want to give an update
sorry.
from Carlisle's side. So Carlisle FinCom met yesterday and they unanimously supported voted to support the paving project. So many thanks to them for understanding the importance of this project, right? They did have a question about the use of the terminology or some other sum in the write-up, because it says we'll appropriate the 853,000 or some other sum. And they just wanted to make sure that that doesn't mean that there are any surprises coming down. And I mean, my understanding is we always put the or other sum in there in order to leave we have a little bit of flexibility. You can go up a tiny bit, or you can definitely always come down. And so it's just to allow that flexibility. So nobody gave an answer specifically, but, they talked about this, but I just want to know from the school committee side, can I go back to them and say that that's not, there's no intention to dramatically raise the sum.
no.
Legally, we can't.
We can't, right?
Yeah,
It's
even
just,
with a little
it's just to
soft
leave the
language.
flexibility to reduce the sum. So that was all, because we couldn't say anything about that last night. So, and then the other thing that they just wanted to emphasize is that the vote will be Carlisle town meeting falls before Concord town meeting. So we just want to make sure that the language in both towns is identical. And so Carlisle warrant goes to print on Friday, I believe. So if we can just have double, triple, quadruple eyes on that to make sure that we do match up exactly, because that would, yeah. But the good news is,
Sarah, I don't know if I address this to you or if Jared can help us. The Concord warrant has been published.
Correct.
And that references a debt exclusion.
yes.
I don't recall our vote explicitly referred to debt exclusion. Does that matter? Is that a technicality that isn't going to trip us up?
Because, we didn't vote for the whole, that write-up about the 2.5 exclusion. Our vote was very
simple.
succinct.
I'm almost positive, no.
Okay. If not, we can always just re-vote our, right, which just to be clean.
Yeah, we basically use the same language that we use for the other project in 2019. So whatever that language was that the school committee voted, it was the same as then. But I can maybe double check with.
So let bond council look
Yeah.
at it again.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds great. Yeah. And if we have to bring it back to the school committee just to, while we're dotting i's and crossing t's.
And it may be
Thank
more a
you.
matter of clarity than legality.
Yeah.
Is my
Or that,
suspect,
yeah.
All right.
suspicion.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Court.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah. And I believe that that's all that I had on, yeah, Article 20/22, depending on which town you're in. Article 44, Cynthia.
I'm just trying to bring it up.
Okay.
So Article 44, short version is it's an authorization to make many changes, upgrades to our cable access facilities. And one of them is to upgrade this room specifically, and another is obviously to keep the studio at the high school vibrant and functioning, which I just feel like it's important as for us here in this room, but for our education and community outreach. So I just wanted to support that article, seek the school committee support for that article, but I'm open to any comments or questions about that.
You know that I sit on the Public Access Advisory Committee as your representative to that body. We don't have detail on that budget at a granular level, nor could we at this point, because that budget will then drive more detailed plans. The article in and of itself is for PEG access monies moving from the account in which the town receives it to the operating account for Minuteman Media. The upgrades actually are a small part of that.
Yeah,
but,
understood.
to your point, a pretty critical one, I think, for the schools.
Yes.
And I would expect that Dr. Hunter, her designee, are going to know, as will the chairs, will know exactly what that's going to look like when the town knows.
In terms of the upgrades here.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Peter Kelly's already been in touch with Mark and working on.
Okay.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Does the school committee typically take a position on any of the warrant articles? Has that been past practice or?
Yep. I know in Carlisle, for example, we had, when I first joined the school committee, we had the solar like we're doing solar canopies and a repaving project, right? And we were asked to actually take positions on 2 articles, or there were a bunch of articles related to the paving and to the solar stuff, which was on it's part of our facility, part of our campus, well, not our article per se, because it came from the sustainability thing. But so on that one, we did take a position. We were also asked to take a position by the Zoning Board of Appeals on something having to do with whether or not Ferns could sell CBD gummies. And we did not take a position on that because that was not, it was not on our campus. It was beyond the distance that was, you know, the drug free, whatever, right? Like, so we, the school zones. And so those are the things that I know that in Carlisle that we've looked at from a school committee side. So when it's had to do, we've had a number of things that have had to do with our campus or land that we own that's used by the town, like if they can build a dog park on some of our land and things like that. And those things we have taken positions on. And others we have declined to even, not even, you know, just to, just not even to vote on taking a position, right?
So who asks?
So
is it like the select board that will ask you to take a position, like in the examples you're giving?
Well, no. So in the examples that I'm giving in terms of the campus improvements, that was just brought by our chairs. Right. In terms
so you're
of
not asked, you're deciding to.
We decided we wanted to take a position on that. In terms of the CBD gummies being sold at Ferns,
someone
asked and we declined to.
So it can be a mixture of both.
Take it. Yeah. So it can be, I mean.
And in this instance, no one has asked us. We're just proactively.
We're just proactively, because having, at least in Carlisle on Friday, you know, like which won't be relevant to you guys, but they'll publish the list of all of the committees that have voted in favor. I don't know if you guys do that.
No, the FinCom book just does select board and FinCom.
Oh, no. So ours has like a list, you know, like, oh, the Council of Aging supports this and the Recreation Department. And you'll have a list of people who are either in favor, against, or took no action on if something is relevant to their operations. So in Carlisle, it's an important thing to put your name behind stuff.
So basically, the
and
voters
it helps guide voters in terms of like, oh, it's been vetted by these 6 different groups. Like,
I get that.
You know,
who studied it?
Yeah.
Everybody good?
No.
Okay. Okay, what's next? Sorry to Susan.
Improvements are important so we can communicate effectively to the public.
Yep. Okay, so
Okay.
we're additional
We're
public
back
comment.
to additional public comment, for which we don't have any time limits, and except the 3 minutes that, you know, but, and let me get my little timer back up. And we will start with Maxime. Greetings.
Hi, my name is Maxime Ernst and I'm from 204 Virginia Road. I'm here as a leader of the Concord-Carlisle Sunrise Movement chapter and as a CCHS senior. The Sunrise Movement is a youth movement to stop climate change through governmental action and create millions of good jobs in the process. I'm here because I would like to express our weariness of the town's plan to install a new gas-powered boiler in Alcott. We urge you to reconsider this plan despite it being all but finalized and to find a more sustainable and environmentally considerate option. Small, easy decisions like these are what will soon make the planet uninhabitable for our generation and those to come after us. While it may be more expensive, we really hope you will consider a better option. Please set a better example for this town and for the towns around us as well. We thank you for your time and your consideration of our planet and our future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and then Sydney. You've had your hand up for a
Hi,
while.
I'm Sydney Haddad. I'm a junior at CCHS and also a member of Sunrise and a part of the district sustainability committee. I'm also here to talk about the new boiler at Alcott. I don't go to Alcott, so I first heard about this new gas-powered boiler at a Zoom meeting last Tuesday, and I had the pleasure of hearing many people report on our sustainability goals and how we are doing great in many of these areas, including transportation and food. However, the same enthusiasm was not brought to the boiler at Alcott. It would be another gas-powered boiler and would not help us reach these ambitious goals. I understand that it may be too late to change as it was presented as a way to improve with the other 2 elementary schools because those plans are less far along, but the project hasn't broken ground yet. So this is a final plea to reconsider a greener energy option like a heat pump. I also understand that it is expensive, but you cannot put a price on students' futures. We are in a climate emergency because of the culmination of many big and small decisions made by well-intentioned people that have prioritized money or efficiency. The Concord School District does a great job preparing kids for their future and should try to protect that future to the best of their ability, which I believe includes revisiting the plans for Alcott's new boiler. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And so last call for additional public comment. Please use the raise hand participant tab if you wish to speak. Up, Jerry.
Yes, hello. I'm Jerry Frankel, 132 Jenny Dugan Road. I'm also chair of CSEC, the Comprehensive Sustainability and Energy Committee here in town. And I'm the author of one of the letters that you recently received about the Alcott boiler. In the interest of time, I'm not going to go over all the details of the letter. You have that here, except to say that the existing plan to install a new gas-fired boiler that typically has a lifespan of 20 years or more is greatly concerning to many of us here in town who take sustainability seriously. And accordingly, I requested in that letter that the school committee describe to CSEC how you arrived at this position and how you plan to address the significant sustainability issues. I'm not the only one concerned about this. My committee is not the only one concerned about this. You just heard from students, and it really impacts them. From my perspective as a parent, and I've had a couple of kids go through CCHS, I see the Concord schools being in the business of preparing our children for the future. But overlooking sustainability goals and measures is not consistent with preparing for the future. I look forward to hearing from your committee about how you arrived at this decision, how you plan to respond to these reasonable requests, in my mind, from the students and others, and how you will address this in the future with the upcoming projects at the new schools, as this will need to be done at both the Thorough and the Willard schools in the not so distant future. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. If there's no more additional public comment, then we can move on to our action items. Oh, sorry, Domingos de Rosa.
Good evening, folks. My name is Domingos de Rosa, father of Jason and Dayla de Rosa. I'm part of the MECO parent group out of Boston. I just want to thank you guys again for having this meeting tonight and allowing us to come back into your space and advocate on some of the concerns that we see as parents. Here tonight, I'm here tonight because from my last meeting to today, a lot of the issues that we've presented to the school committee continues to occur day in, day out. So it's very disheartening as a parent to bring these issues to the school committee, not only via email, but in person, and yet to receive a response from this body. For me, I'm speaking for myself, it's troubling. You know, in one breath, you say the urgency about working on these policies, about being inclusive, about working on diversity. And then on the other hand, we've presented these matters to you and we haven't received a formal response or even acknowledging the fact that the town has reviewed the document and has considered some of the suggestions made by the group of parents. I'm hoping in the days to come that the committee would actually, you know, sit down and have this conversation as a whole body, because it doesn't seem to be at the top of your priority list. It doesn't seem to be something that is going to change in the days to come. We've made several requests for information, especially when it comes to the DEI, the data collected, so we can review it, so we can go ahead and fill in the gaps. As a lot of the other parents have stated, the study is inconclusive in our eyes because a lot of the things that have been put in that report is not accurate. I'm trying to be, you know, realistic, you know, but at the same time, I'm trying to be hopeful. We're asking, we've demanded, and, you know, we're trying to be patient as possible, but it's getting to a point where this is becoming unbearable, not only to our children who attend Concord, but us as parents, you know, to go in, day out, and continue to support each other on issues that we face as individual families, and yet to have a decision from the body that governs the school system in Concord and Carlisle. So again, I thank you for your time. We've read out our notes into the minutes, and we hope that you guys go ahead and actually take this serious, because we are.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Marlisa.
I'd like to add, so during the last committee meeting, which Domingos and I both attended in person, it was quite troubling to me. You know, I spoke with a few of the committee members, and I felt that everyone was very great. And, you know, I'd like to think that everyone on the committee is, you know, super bright, super understanding. And, you know, it really bothered me that after that presentation, you know, there were comments that were made about, you know, Mr. Nemichi's presentation being very thorough, when in fact it was not thorough. It was filled with tons of jargon. There was percentages where we talked about studies that were taken where there was no actual N, like no number of students. There was no time span of when these studies were actually actually conducted. There was no definition of what anti-racist means. There was no definition of what equity means. And I just want to stop and say that, like, I recognize that maybe the committee, because especially one committee member kind of stood up and said, you know, I don't really know what this means, but I feel that, you know, we're doing our best to partner with you, to share the information with you, but you know, when it's not brought up or it's not on the actual agenda, it's kind of challenging for us to feel as though it's important to you. So what I'm asking for this group to do is to recognize that this is our second letter that we've sent to you. We're hoping for a response. We're hoping that we can partner with you, and we're looking for tangible results to actually show that the district is actually making the steps in the right direction. We've been told about a budget that exists. We're happy that there's a budget that exists. We'd like to know how those funds are going to be allocated. You know, we're hiring, you know, okay, how much money does it actually cost for a bus per day versus how much does it cost for us to hire these consultants to advise someone who does not have the background nor the skill in order to do the work himself? So I just want to kind of throw that out there to say that these are the things that we need to actually pay attention to in order for us to partner together.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Last call for public comment. Going once and twice. Okay. It's time to move on to action items.
Yep.
Vote to take, so we have an action item of vote to take action on Article 22, which some questions have been raised about the redundancy of that, as it is our own article. And I think that that's probably a legitimate question of, do we need to take an action? And probably so up to the committee to decide if we feel
Completely up to, yeah.
It might be worth our while for the Carlisle warrant to have,
It's really up to all of you.
to have a vote in favor of it. I mean, if everyone's in favor.
Yeah, I think
It's that probably. I think
Yes.
so. I think
It
so.
was January 18th that we put it forward.
Right.
Yes.
And with the language, with one question about debt exclusion,
Right.
but no ambiguity about the project or the
absolutely no.
anticipated
If there is anybody who feels that.
money involved.
And I think in our movement of the stabilization fund reiterated our interest in this.
Would you and Eva think it sufficient for us to simply in discussion affirm that that was our intent and is our intent?
That is fine, because then at the town meeting, we will go and talk about it and just say that we continue to affirm our support for this. That's fine. So
Let's see if there's.
Article 44,
Just looking.
that's the next one.
Oh, there's no vote in here. So the way that the article language is usually structured when a committee takes a position is that the Concord-Carlisle School Committee will take an affirmative action on Article 44. So do I have it?
Or moves affirmative.
Yes,
action,
thank you.
Which is our expression to say we support it.
Mhm.
Moves affirmative action.
Would you like to make the motion, Mr. Booth?
Yes, but just full disclosure, as a member of that committee, I was in support of the assistant town manager's recommendation that did contain this. I don't think it violates any protocol for me to also serve on the committee because I was your agent there, but I just
No.
wanted to make it very clear to everybody. I would move that the Concord-Carlisle School Committee move affirmative action on Article 44 on the Concord Town warrant.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
Any further
Discussion?
I not only want to thank the Assistant Town Manager and the Public Information Officer for staying focused on this, but also the technical expertise of folks at Minuteman Media who are helping our IT department, working hand in hand with them to upgrade this facility and take a look at the main studio at the high school.
I think that something like our foreign languages presentation this evening shows the importance of being able to have all of these resources to broadcast the work of the schools.
And I guess I would like to publicly thank Mark back there that no one can see, but we have this beautiful TV that's on tonight, which is very helpful. Well, thank you for the time. And thank you to Peter Kelly for getting that going. And thank you for the time you've spent on the microphones because it's been very helpful to those at home.
It'll get better.
It's fancy.
All right. So with no further discussion, all in favor? Aye. Okay, opposed? No.
Okay.
Motion passes. And now we have a vote to approve CCHS trip to Junior State of America Convention, Washington, DC. Doctor, do we have Eli?
Eli's still here. We're grateful for his time
Yes.
tonight. So Eli, if you want to come on camera, we're going to ask you to talk about the trip.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Great.
Should I start with a little bit about JSA itself, the chapter?
Yes, that would be excellent.
All right, yeah. So, hi everyone. I'm Eli Holmes. I'm a senior at CCHS, and I'm this year's president of JSA. So JSA stands for Junior State of America. It's a nonpartisan political discussion group here at CCHS. Essentially, pretty much every Monday, we meet to discuss a certain political issue. It's a great opportunity for everyone, regardless of their political standings, to have a comfortable and like fair platform to develop and talk through their political ideas. It's completely student led and organized. The president of the club moderates the debate, and they always have. I've been part of this club for the last 4 years, and I've watched the group work really, really hard to continuously meet throughout remote school, via Zoom, hybrid, and now continuing to meet. It's because of that, it's formed a really tight bond, but I think it's kind of a unique type of bond because all of the members of the club come from such different like backgrounds, and they have so many different perspectives on the actual topics at hand. So everyone's so different from each other because of the nature of the club being political, yet we're all so close to one another. So our club of JSA is a chapter of the larger national organization of JSA. The national organization largely deals with like hosting conventions. And our chapter of JSA hopes to attend the next convention, which is called Spring State. JSA conventions are an opportunity to get experience with activism, debate with students of different perspectives because of the difference in regions that they're coming from, and listen to incredibly influential speakers. Just to brag a little bit about the conventions, in previous years, speakers have included Ruth Bader Ginsburg, George W. Bush, and Kamala Harris. So to briefly, a few of the logistics, who of the club we would hope to attend would be the 6 seniors of the club, since this is their last opportunity to attend a JSA convention. This year's Spring State Convention is April 9th through 10th, and it's in DC. Thank you for your time.
Great, thanks, Eli.
Yeah.
All right. So I think that I can enter a motion to approve the CCHS trip.
I'm going to have some questions.
Yep. Okay. In the discussion.
That's fine.
part? Okay. Or we can do you want some questions first?
Dr. Hunter, maybe you can speak to this. And forgive me if we're not prepared for it. Is this a trip whereby we would, in your estimation, provide initial approval, what we used to call initial approval, so they then go work details and budget and then come back with a final? Or is this far enough along so that you've got all the details in hand, so you've got a level of comfort?
Yes, we don't have a protocol per se because it's been in hiatus for so long. This has come up fairly quickly. Because we haven't gone, Mr. Mastrullo and I were very deep into the details with the advisors and thinking through all the COVID aspects, all the details of the trip and all of that. So we've done more due diligence in this first discussion than we normally would have. The trip is scheduled soon, April 8th. So I think for it to be viable, you would need to approve it tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And that hasn't been our practice in the past. I understand that, but
it's a moment when we're returning.
Yeah, I think we felt comfortable bringing it and asking for the quicker turnaround. It's 8 students, domestic to DC. About as simple of a trip as we could bring you, given the international and some of those other much more complicated activities.
And Ms. Glazer is no stranger to this kind of activity.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you very much.
No, you're welcome. Good.
Very helpful. So I'd be happy to read the motion and move that the Concord-Carlisle School Committee vote to approve the CCHS overnight trip from April 8, 2022 to April 10, 2022 to the Junior State of America Convention in Washington, D.C., as outlined with the condition that a signed district liability waiver, MIIA, is received from all participants.
Is there a second?
I'll second, as a former CCHS junior stater myself.
Oh, there you go. Okay. I think we all owe Mr. Holmes a debt of gratitude for the excellent
persistence.
presentation. Thank you very much.
Yep. All right. Is there further discussion?
No.
Nope. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. Have a great trip. And continue those wonderful constructive dialogues.
Thank you
Healthy
very much. I
discourse
appreciate it.
is something to admire.
Yes.
These days.
Thank
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Eli.
And now we have a vote to approve a CCHS exchange student from Germany. We've all gotten the information about this. So is there a motion to, is any need for additional information from anyone?
We talked about this, right? Yeah.
And this is, this is a new
another
one.
Oh, new one. Okay.
This is a new one, but there was included a link to the packet about, about the.
Maybe you could speak very briefly to it, Dr. Honor.
Yeah,
AFS is our known agent.
correct. It's another student through an agency, this time from Germany. They do all the onboarding and vetting and work on all the details that need to be arranged, which has proven to be a really reliable way for us to bring students on. It manages the English component, which we've talked about in this group, and really sets us up for success. So we're excited to have another opportunity to bring the world to CC.
And those families.
Yes.
To get this far, to your point, it means we have a host family.
Yes.
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 Obviously, COVID has impacted this, but in a typical year, how many students?
I would say we're getting closer to normal pace on this school year. So we've had a few both semesters. That's about normal to what I recall before COVID.
And do we have partnership schools that we like?
What hasn't come back is the exchange trips, which are not as long, and the kids come with it as a group. They visit us for a week or 2 weeks, and then we send kids to them for a week or 2 weeks. So that's equally valuable, but we haven't brought that back yet. You'll be hearing more as we get ready for the fall to
Next year.
have them go a year from now.
But we had a friend's daughter stay with us for a year, and the year that she stayed, there was a robust, it was about 5 kids who were there for the whole year, I think. And then some who were there just for one semester or
And how
another.
does that work from like a financial perspective? Does the exchange like town pay for it, or do we? absorb
That's
the
why
cost?
you're approving it,
So we
because you're
approve-
onboarding them without tuition.
Okay.
We don't actually tuition kids in exchange. At this point, it's an option other districts have exercised. We have not.
And I would add, if there was a budgetary tipping point, you'd tell us about it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, they wouldn't come with a endorsement from me if we were
Mhm.
hitting extra teachers and things like
Yes.
that because of it. Which is why the English portion is really important, that the agencies vet that. Because if they don't, then you have a less fluent student, they qualify for ELL services. And you can get into the place where you're adding staff. So the English component is really important that the agencies work with that ahead of time.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I'll move that Concord-Carlisle School Committee votes to approve one AFS International Exchange student from Germany at CCHS for the 2022-23 school year.
Second. Okay, great. Discussion?
We wish them good fortune.
Yes.
All right. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, the motion passes. Thank
Awesome.
you. And with no further action items, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the regional portion of this meeting.
So moved.
Oh, I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Good night. Good night. Take a 2-minute break.
Sure.
Thank you.
1:59, I'll give you. Okay. And I'll call the Concord School Committee meeting back to order or in order. So let's see, how much of a update do you have on the building other than what was given earlier? Building committee, I'm sorry.
So,
Go ahead.
yeah, I spoke out of turn at the joint meeting, simply to reference that the design subcommittee met last week and that you'll see the results of that work this Thursday morning, 7:30, when the entire committee convenes. And I think Alexa and Lori can tell us more than I could about additional items.
I've been a ray of sunshine in a hard couple of weeks is spending the day yesterday and again tomorrow with the design team. You and Cole sitting with the staff, rotating through in different groups. So we look at different areas of the building, and it's just been really positive and making it really real and letting us get their feedback. And the design team will go back and tweak based on some of the educators' suggestions. So that was a lot of fun today, and it'll be a lot of fun tomorrow.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I don't have much from a communication standpoint. Fortunately.
Are there any other subcommittee meetings coming up?
There aren't any others planned. We're just starting to talk about when a sustainability subcommittee meeting might be appropriate.
Okay.
And reminder for anybody listening in that there's a link from the home page for the district to the project.
Great. So on to the budget update. So I'll just sort of set the stage. So the Concord FinCom had their hearing last Thursday, I think. And they, I think they reviewed only articles 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22. Correct me if I missed, there was something else going on there. Let's see, just to go through the vote. So they voted affirmative action on articles 18, 19, 20, no, excuse me, 19, 20, 21, and 22. And they voted no action on 18. Is that our budget article? I think it is, right?
18 is the Concord Public Schools budget. Yes.
Right, they voted no action on that. So Cord and I were there, and I know Carrie couldn't make it. Was there anybody?
I watched it.
Okay.
I did watch it after.
Okay, so I just wanted to go around what thoughts people had on their deliberations and.
I'll share my sentiment in this space just on my gut. I haven't spoken with FinCom members. I am hopeful that they don't expect this committee to meet that guideline if we've had as much difficulty to date that we have. But that they would be gratified if we continue to make a good faith effort in their direction. I know that's not very precise, but I think that's what they want to see. They want to see us work more on this. Was the inference I got. I don't know how other people read it. I don't think they're opposed to the budget per se. I think they ultimately want to support it.
Yep, I think that's.
But
accurate.
again, I'm putting thoughts into their heads. I shouldn't. That's just, again, my interpretation.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that, we voted on the budget, we support the budget. And so I guess I'm a little confused. I understand, I watched the discussions. I understand that they would like it. Sorry, they would like it to be, to meet the guideline, but we all voted to fully support this budget. So,
right, but it's supposed to be a dialogue, right? They have their job, we have our job. So I think the right thing to do always to discuss when they have a meeting and set a guideline, we should respond. And I'm not asking anybody to.
Yeah. Did we then vote the budget prematurely? Is my question.
Well, you'll recall 2 weeks ago, I was explicit and I said, should we, could we? Those were the way I think I framed it. Should we, could we wait until the FinCom meets? And my thinking back then was, I want to get a better read on them. I'll repeat, I don't think it's realistic to say our goal is their goal by any means. You said it well, they've got their job and we certainly have ours, and Dr. Hunter is going to bring us a budget that in her estimation protects the robust program that we intend to bring to this district. This district rarely is bashful about bringing a request for educational resources to the townspeople. In fact, this town's proud of that, I think, even though it's an uphill battle for residents. It's an uphill battle they're typically proud of in this town, and I think we share that. So I think we would do well to examine the budget again with an eye toward any possible efficiencies. And if we come up with something, we come up with something. And if we don't, we don't. But again, I'll say it. I think they'd like to witness a good faith effort on our part that, gee whiz, we dug in because you asked us to. That doesn't presume what the outcome is going to be. Because I don't know what the outcome is going to be.
I guess my only concern that I would ask you guys is that built into the budget that we have in front of us now, that we voted on, there was a certain level of risk built in. And I think my personal concern in sort of going above and beyond what already has been done is I guess potentially putting us in a situation where, you know, that sort of exposes us, I guess, in the future as the year moves on. And again, I don't know. It seems like the budget is fairly lean, and as I see where we are as a country, as a town, as a district, I feel like we have a lot going on. We've got COVID, we've got mental health, we've got learning loss, and I see those as really significant challenges. And I don't know that. I just get nervous thinking, is this the time for austerity in any means when we're talking about students and families and their well-being and their ability to achieve and make up losses that were due to COVID? That just makes me personally nervous. And additionally, you know, the gap is so small. I would, as much as I think the finance committee would like us to give some space or some, I don't know, effort towards the goal. We've done that. What we haven't seen is them sort of come back to us with any wiggle room or acknowledgement of the state of affairs, again, not just in Concord, not just in Massachusetts, but the country. I don't know. That's just sort of my take.
FinCom members did use that same argument. It is so small.
Yeah.
You know, so they're using the very same language we're using. In fact, I think it's a fraction of 1%.
Yeah, it's 0.8%,
does it not
I
deserve
think.
a look? So I don't think the FinCom is asking for austerity. Or for any town function, notably the schools, and that would be a non-starter here anyway, at the school committee level.
This is my first time in this process, but it was my understanding that we voted on it last time because And I do remember your question, Court, but we voted on it last time because for a couple of reasons. One, we wanted the superintendent to go into the meeting with our backing and support. And also because, I mean, this is my third school committee meeting as a member, and I've seen this presentation 4 times. I think Jared has gone through great lengths and the entire administration to try to wean things down and make this as lean as possible. So my understanding on our vote was that this is a great place for us to land, and anything that we cut beyond this would impact students. And that's where we draw the line, that we've cut the fat. And now it's, I mean, I'm personally prepared to say that that this is where it ought to be. That's my opinion.
And one thing they did mention quite a bit, and we really need to think hard about this, because we have a contract that's escalating to 5%, almost 5% next year, a CTA contract. So we'll have to make some hard decisions next year. So I just want to, we have these pressures because of our contractual obligations.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow or another, we're going to have to find a way to reduce our costs next year, because we can't come forward with a
Well, I mean, I
5%.
think things change from year to year too. I mean, we might have different student needs, we might have different, funding sources coming. I mean,
but it's such a big part of the pie.
it is
such a
of the
big
pie,
part.
But
So
we have an obligation to that, and I think we're all very well aware that we have an obligation to that. And I do think that I'm not comfortable cutting anything else, because I do think it will hit students, and that, my priority is really, I don't want anything to hit students. And we talked about our continuum of services and extending that into the middle school. And I don't want any programs to be at risk. We're in a very tricky time in education right now, and our kids have suffered for 2 years. And I do think that we need to prioritize our students and their mental health and their learning loss, all of that. And, I was comfortable with where we're at our last meeting.
Okay.
The other thing that I think is really hard, I think about this when I think about the continuum of services that we're putting forth at the middle school. It's so challenging for us to quantify costs that we're avoiding in establishing those services. So, one of the things too that I worry about is if we don't continue to make robust those services and scaffold appropriately the ones that we have for the student populations that we have, there could be unintended consequences of that with respect to kids going out of district, which of course has financial implications that worry me. But even beyond that, I do feel, and everybody knows, I've really leaned into my role as liaison as in CPAC. We are not only legally obliged to ensure that we're providing as much as possible for these kids, but to me, I know Carrie said in a coffee once, or candidate coffee, the budget is a value statement. To me, ensuring that we have the appropriate structures, services, people, FTEs in place to do that is also an ethical one from my perspective. So again, I get worried that superintendent has laid very clearly what we need. If there's some way that those trade-offs are such that we can't start delivering that, there's the moral and ethical, and then there will be, I think, some financial ramifications as well. And it's just so hard to quantify those in ways that I think, I don't know, can make the argument for it a little bit more challenging.
3 meetings ago, when we talked about making the superintendent's recommended budget our budget, I think, Laura, your words were, I don't want to give you a cut list. And nobody at this table disagreed with you. A cut list is a threatening thing. And it's not the only way to do business. It's not the only way to make your recommendation our budget that we take responsibility for. A couple of questions. One, can you help us any further tonight or anytime before town meeting further quantifying the risk factors embedded in the budget right now. We know there are an anticipated reduction of 2 kindergarten teachers, you told us. And our assumption, I think I speak for my colleagues, is that this doesn't mean rifts. This means movement within the ranks. So
We hope.
we're not. Yeah, we hope.
We're
So
never
again,
sure.
back to risk, but that's the hope and a reasonable expectation on your part. In your report this week, you referenced a new $38,000. Is that one?
That's from the last time we met.
Okay, so that's not
right
news as of yesterday's report. That's an
Correct.
affirmation of something.
Since
Okay,
we
just
last-
wanted to be
it's-
clear about
yep,
that.
that's good
Okay,
to
yep,
clarify.
right, okay, good.
So does that mean the delta's 312 still?
The delta's
Yeah.
312.
Is that it?
Yes.
Okay. So again, not necessarily tonight. I don't think this thing needs to be put to bed. I think the FinCom would be gratified to know that we're talking about it because it's important to them. It's important to us. That's fair. We're all in this town together. But before town meeting, if we can take another look at those risk factors.
Yeah, I can speak to them
that-
tonight,
That
certainly.
might be useful to get us started on this.
So we cut a kindergarten section at Alcott based on enrollment and the assistant. We cut a Willard kindergarten teacher and assistant based on enrollment. We reduced requests for nurses based on various needs, expecting we can come to that in a different way and meet student medical obligations. We dropped 120,000 in retirements that we don't have, just to say aloud again, hoping there's resignations, retirements, attrition to fill that. We've reduced multiple tutors. I think it's as high as 4 across different settings. Any place we could not compromise student services. We've been all through the tutor lists and have come to that. I don't know that we can hold the cuts we made. Those were fairly risky. We had a lot of discussion of putting engineering and applied tech. Kristen's face is going to cringe while I say it again. Putting that back in the middle school. We thought we were going to put it back. We cut it before you even saw it because we knew the numbers were not where we were happy. We went through all the supply and material lines. They are zero-based and now completely free of, we know what we need now that we're this far past coming out of the pandemic. So those numbers are basic at best, I would say. We've already gone $75,000 into circuit breaker. We're already 75,000 into circuit breaker and we zero-based the tuitions. So those are both some risk right off the bat.
Meaning if we get
Unexpected sped,
move,
you're
yeah. Someone moves to
without
the
a bit
district in,
already.
yeah,
You're,
November.
you're not as nimble as you might be fiscally. It should still be fine, which is why I have not changed my recommendation. This, I think, is where you'd have to go to make cuts, and therefore I can't make those recommendations. We've been through this budget. I just want to be sure we say out loud, we have been through these budgets. I don't know how many times now, 5. We're doing another round with the principals now. It's not for lack of not working at this. The next places you'd have to go to contingency or circuit breaker, or you are student facing. Kristen's going to scringe if I even read the list I started, but it's support staff, it's student facing, or it's the PD that's going to feed all these initiatives. I mean, you are to that point. So it's either and I'm not going to make this recommendation. I think I just need to say that again. You're either into contingency and circuit breaker further, or you're into student facing or teacher development. And I think we value those too much. Personally, I'm struggling. I listened to the meeting too, because I left that night and then the conversation continued. We came in under guideline at the high school. That money was allocated. That's 175,000 of 312. I'm struggling with why that can't get reallocated. You're right, the salaries are the big driver. They're a driver, despite whatever the salaries were, we brought you a budget of 3.4% with the 3 FTEs for the special ed. If you subtract that out, we were at 2.2. So we did all the work to offset the contractual increases. So it was a reasonable ask. We will continue to do that. I have good faith that we will be able to do that more and more and more. I feel like we're at a place where you've got the budget that brings level service with those special ed programs. I'm also struggling a little, if those SPED programs equated to out of district tuitions, would we be having this conversation? Because I think we all know at every level of town leadership, out of district tuitions, we can't control as much, and we don't tend to have the same conversations about those. We accept them differently. It's the same special education service in a different format. So I just want to be sure we say that. I think Alexa did a nice job of saying it more articulately than I just did.
Hardly, but.
So this is your level service budget. Okay. With those 3 SPED programs, which will avoid your out of district costs and serve kids well.
I want to thank you for that review. It's probably not the last time you're going to share it with this community. And I think we've got to be patient and press on with that kind of information.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think it's
Always
important. So thank you very much.
Yes.
I honestly didn't expect you to have that at hand the way you do, but I'm not surprised that you did. So thank you for that.
Might have anticipated where this comes.
Well, given FinCom, yeah, true enough.
So thank you. I do think it's important we say it as we're trying to figure this out. And I am fully wanting, we have not gotten to guideline in my 5 years here. So I don't really want this to be the first year we don't.
Right.
So I am hopeful for ongoing discussions with the
So they
finance
have this
committee.
on their
It's on the agenda for Thursday.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
So do we need to do anything as a committee? Do we need to decide anything as a committee at this point, or we're?
Well, I don't want this to be perceived as pestering our finance director or our superintendent, but I do think that updates through town meeting would be sensible for us.
Yeah.
And even if those updates are the same ones that we have right now.
Yeah.
Just as a
Looked
reminder.
under the same
Just a
rock and didn't
reminder.
find anything, might be what we hear. I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, and I just, I would be remiss if I didn't say it, but the amount of time that I think that the finance office and Dr. Hunter have spent on this, it's been a lot of time, and I certainly appreciate all that time and looking for ways to, meet guideline, but, we are in the business of advocating for our students, and I can't say that strongly enough. And, I'm speaking for myself. I would not want any of our PD, especially now, to be compromised, or our students. And that's, and I feel really strongly about that. And, it sounds easy enough to, just cut 1% from everything. We are not a business. We are in education.
Mhm.
We're educating children. We're educating people. We're doing all of that. So it might sound easy to just cut 1%, but it's not quite that simple.
I didn't even mention all of the pieces that got us closer to guideline, because there's been other revenues we've tapped as well to get to the 312. So we were at 450 initially when you first got the budget.
Yeah.
And now we're at 312, and that movement's been us going back again and again.
Good.
Yeah, and I guess I didn't include this as part of my special education update, but a big part of the special ed board meeting was specifically talking about the necessity of professional development and their hope that it continues to be built upon. I was grateful for Debbie to have been there to share. I think there was confusion as to, it's not easy to know if you're just a parent around what exactly we're doing in professional development. So Debbie did outline what our educators go through specifically vis-a-vis inclusion. It's robust, and I think it should, again, I'll echo, I think it should continue to be as this is something at the forefront of, parents out there.
And
who
I'll
are
speak
paying
for the
attention.
Metco families that it is very clearly on their list as
Yes.
well, and we couldn't agree more. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. But any other comments or?
Well, I appreciate the conversation.
Yeah.
I know it is difficult for our administration to return and return again. But some years that's what we do. And I think we should be able to hold up our budget next to any community in the Commonwealth and be proud that we're supporting our kids and,
Yep.
and asking our citizens to do so.
Exactly. Good. All right. So the last item is Concord Article 20, which is to appropriate a total of 1.5 to the Middle School Stabilization Fund. So I just want to vote in support of that. This is just try to smooth out the debt payments.
In fact, it's another payment toward a total $5 million goal
Mhm.
to level the peak years that'll be most onerous for folks in town.
So Carrie LaFleur and the select board got creative and found some money in the overlay account, which is the Board of Assessors account to pay off abatements. So they sort of trimmed that down. And we're really trimming back free cash to a very low level, lowest I think we've ever had in this town. So that's something we need to be aware of. You know, the select board and the town are digging deep into their pockets to try to help the citizens with the payments for the middle school debt. So I think it's important that we support that, and because we want that to pass at town meeting. So any other questions about Article 20?
I move that the Concord School Committee move affirmative action for Article 20 of the Concord Town warrant.
A second?
Second.
Okay. Any more discussion?
Well, I would just echo what you said. I think the town's working very hard on behalf of the town. The middle school is a town project to ensure that support for an ambitious project is something that is a realistic yet big ask for the citizens of Concord.
Yeah. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And the motion passes. And I believe that's our last agenda item. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you all.